Wonderful. Hi, everyone. My name is Shirin Shahin, and I'm really excited to be here today to talk about my favorite topic. I'm not just saying that because I'm presenting today. It has been my favorite topic for the last few months, and I'll explain why specifically in the last few months this has been the favorite one. So is product marketing really still a mystery? This question is on my mind continuously, and I know it's come up a couple times today, but I'm going to devote 30 minutes to talking about this. And I'd like to talk about why it is such a mystery first, and then a little bit about what we as a collective group of product marketers can hopefully do to change that. First, I want to show you what it feels when I have these conversations.
You take the specifications from the customers and you bring them down to the software engineers.
Yes, that's right.
Well, then I just have to ask, why couldn't the customers just take them directly to the software people, huh?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because engineers are not good at dealing with customers.
So you physically take the specs from the customer?
Well, no, my secretary does that, or the fax.
So then you must physically bring them to the software people.
Well, no. Yeah, I mean, sometimes.
What would you say you do here?
Well, look, I already told you. I deal with the goddamn customers so the engineers don't have to. I have people skills. I am good at dealing with people. Can't you understand that? What the hell is wrong with you people? Hey.
Okay, so raise your hand if any part of this conversation resonates with you. Really, all your hands should be up because I'm sure that you feel this. So I've been having these conversations a lot recently. I left my product marketing corporate job after about 7 years, 2 different companies. I'm going to share that story tomorrow morning. But it was the first time that I actually realized, wow, I really have to explain what I do because I was usually in companies that had 8, 10-person teams in product marketing. And now I've had to really explain it. And this is pretty close. I wouldn't say I lose my temper the way he did in the end, but it's pretty close to the interaction. At least internally, I do feel that way. So I'm going to elaborate a little bit further as to how these conversations have gone almost word for word. I've worked in product marketing for the last 7 years. Oh, so you do marketing 90% of the time. That's the reaction I get. Well, not quite. I work with marketing teams, but my role isn't exactly marketing. Staring contest. We just look at each other. We think about it a little bit. I'm wondering what the next question is they're going to ask me. Then I explain, and I explain. And most of the time, actually, they do realize how critical our role is. And that's great. We usually get there. But the problem we're seeing here is, why is it so hard to explain? Why is it such a, this concept that we have so many different roles and so many different responsibilities that we're not able to have a very clear definition? And again, I know we've actually seen it even today in a couple of presentations that it's been hinted at. So these are some of the top questions that I've received. I'm sure there's many more that we've all heard. What exactly is a product marketer? How are you different from a product manager? That's a very common one. So you do messaging. This is always a fun one. Doesn't the marketing team do that? So you're doing messaging too? Like, how does that work? When should I hire a product marketer? I've heard that one a lot more recently, which is a good sign. What type of product marketer should I hire at various stages? I'm focusing on work with startups now, so this is a question that I've been hearing a little bit more. When exactly do I hire a product marketer? So before I go into what my definition is, which is my own opinion of my definition, you don't have to raise your hand, just throw out words. What words come to your mind when someone says, what's product marketing? What's a word that comes to your mind?
Product launches.
Product launches.
Sales enablement.
Yep. Yep.
Buyers,
strategy. I didn't even hear those because they were all at the same time. But yes, so already we just got 5 or 6 somewhat different answers that just came from the audience. So this is after a lot of thinking. Oh, actually, before I show my definition, this was interesting. So what I did, I was still thinking through this, all kind of just internally. Why is this so hard for me to describe myself, what I've been doing for the last 7 years? So I actually went to my LinkedIn network and I posted the question. This was about a month ago. And I posted the question saying, why do we think why is product marketing such a mystery? Very similar to the title of my session today. I've never gotten this engagement. You can go look through my past LinkedIn post. Never. I maybe got 5 likes sometimes. I posted the question. I added a couple ideas as to why I think, and this is the engagement that I got just from that one question alone. 18,000 views, 140 likes, 50 comments later. What this showed me was this is obviously a very hot topic, and it was something that is bubbling up more and more. People, you could go probably find it somewhere on my LinkedIn. People were commenting continuously about different opinions. And this is a little bit what I heard. This is just 6 or so of them, 7 of them. I'm going to read them because I think they're really unique and great, and they all know that they're being quoted here. So from Dell, Jillian, who's a senior product marketing manager. As a product marketer, I feel like a lot of my job making sure everyone's voice is heard. I can completely relate with that. We're meeting with so many different teams. We need to ensure that voice gets out there. From HubSpot, the role of a product marketer is a reflection of the role of the product and the go-to-market strategy. Okay, so now we're dependent on the company to define our role, which I've heard that speaking to a couple people today that they've gone from one company to the other and now I have a totally different role. I've experienced that myself as well. Privy, similar thing from Josh. A lot of it depends on the expectations of the company, very similar. These 2 are my favorite. Well, they're all great, but these 2 are my favorite. Product marketing is often the unsung hero. I love that. Any of us that are in product marketing, we're probably like, not great that it's unsung, but we're a hero. I think that's true. And then I consider it somewhat of an air traffic controller, what Brian said. Thought that was really interesting too. Another word that I've heard used at my last company, we were called cat herders. Literally, people are like, you guys are like cat herders. And I was like, yep, I can totally relate to that. And the last one, just to add a little more light to it and a lot of different variety here from Home Base, product marketing is strategic and it's tactical. It's right brain and it's left brain. Product marketing will do the things you haven't hired someone else to do. Okay, yeah, the garbage we heard earlier. So some garbage is okay, not all. But what you can also see here, and even though they're not all of them now, I know Megan was heading up product marketing at one point at HubSpot. Josh was actually my previous manager 2 jobs ago in product marketing. So what I'm trying to show here is they're actually all also in product marketing. These aren't even members of other teams that are saying this variety. These are product marketers. This is my definition. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's the one that I find easiest to communicate, that I think covers a broad spectrum of what we do. And then there's so much detail. This is what I've been sharing in order to provoke more questions. But as far as my description, product marketing is responsible for connecting a product's capabilities to the values and needs that the customers can recognize. They actually see it and they feel it, and they can measure. Because there is some KPIs associated with product marketing. That's my sentence. I'm definitely not here to say what's right or wrong, but this is the one I'm honestly testing out with in my conversations right now. So let's get into why. Out of the 50 comments, I tried to bubble up some themes. None of this I think will surprise you, but I think it's important to note. I think there's 3 main reasons why this is happening to us. 1, it's really difficult to define. 2, it's still new, and I'll talk about what that means. I don't necessarily mean all of what we do is new at all. 3, this actually was mentioned earlier, and I forget who said it, but there's no real roadmap for hiring. There's roadmaps for some other roles that we hire at companies. I don't think there is one for product marketing. So I'm going to talk about each really quick. So difficult to define. Variety of responsibilities. I won't even go into this too much. You guys heard it just in the 1 second that everyone shared a word that they thought of. We've heard it all day today. We are doing so much and so many things dependent on the company, depending on our team, that is not helping us necessarily to define exactly what it is that we do. Not only that, and related, probably many of you can relate, we also report very often to different teams. So I've always reported into marketing. I'm sure that's different if we went around the room, but my boss always was leading up to the CMO. Just today I spoke to someone, they're reporting into product. Last week, I was at a different conference and I mentioned what I do, and I was speaking to someone, and they said, oh, it's funny, we had a product marketer reporting into sales ops. That one I hadn't heard. I could see why with the sales enablement angle, but I had not heard that one. So we're reporting it to many teams. So imagine you're an organization and you go from one company to the other, your product marketers were here once and now they're over here, now they're over here. It's not helping anybody to really understand what product marketing is. Soft skills, this is my favorite. A little bit mentioned today too, we've heard empathy a couple times. I love that. I think we have to be very empathetic as product marketers. But this is really critical to a lot of what we do. We do have some hard skills, of course, that we need to do our job well. Many people ask me, should I go into product marketing? My honest answer is, are you okay and do you enjoy handling a lot of different personalities? I don't mean that in any negative way. We all know everyone here has a different personality, but not only that, we're dealing with product managers, finance later, legal later, sales later. That's all in one day. We all know that. We have meetings with all of them. I really think it's very critical to our role. That's why soft skills is so important, both in hiring and what we see as success for a product marketer. Challenges, soft skills are really hard to measure. So it's very hard for us to say, oh yeah, product marketers, they're so empathetic. We're hearing it today, but we're all product marketers. I really haven't heard that outside of our own kind of group. So bottom line, there's really no one definition and we're all trying to define it. It's still new. So this, I definitely don't mean that the responsibilities are new. I think they're so critical to an organization. That's not the case. The role under one person or a team, I do think is still new. I've spoken to companies that have 100 or 200 employees. Maybe they have one product marketer. I'm usually still shocked. The shock is going away because I'm hearing about it more, but I've been very surprised by this. So why? Lack of education. To be really honest, and I'm really giving a lot of credit to Product Marketing Alliance and that Slack channel, before that, I personally did not really know where to go to learn about product marketing. Pragmatic marketing is awesome, I've seen that, but where do we really go to learn about product marketing? You Google it and you might find some blog articles and things like that, but there's really not much education. I think it's a huge opportunity for us, which I'll get to next. Less resources. By this, I mean budget at a company. My experience has been it's not the first thing there's budget allocated to in product marketing. It's typically acquisition, it's sales, it's product, and then, oh yeah, I need product marketing. I need to grow the team. And that's, I think, if you have a really great leader that has a lot of influence in the organization, you're able to get budget. And not the first hire, like I just said, and especially now since I'm speaking to more startups, which is very interesting to talk about product marketing with them. It's not the first thing they think of. I'm actually having to educate a lot. Product is the first thing, and that makes complete sense. They need the product, otherwise they don't have anything. And then sales, depending on the business model, usually sales, and then acquisition. Usually you need to feel a few pain points to really say, oh, okay, I think I need product marketing. And that's if they know what a product marketer does. Otherwise they wouldn't even think product marketer necessarily. So bottom line, for it's still new, it's been happening in a different way. Again, the tasks have been happening. They're happening in different places. No internal roadmap for hiring. I honestly won't even take credit for this one. This was someone's comment related to hiring that we don't really know when to hire a product marketer. There's no trigger for it. So like I mentioned, others are doing parts of the role already. If others are doing parts of it, maybe not all of it, there's less incentive to say, oh, I need a product marketer. No real trigger. I think there's some roles that have a very strong trigger. When you have a very technical product, you know pretty quick I probably need a support team, 1 or 2 people in support. If you have a B2B, more enterprise sales, probably need a sales team as well. So there's some of those triggers that already exist. I'm very open to this discussion once we get to Q&A, but what is the real trigger for a product marketer? Is there 1 trigger? Is there 2? I have an idea of a few, but I'm definitely open to talk about that. And then the role is siloed. Because it's siloed, that's less incentive to hire, like I said. I think the key here is the value of consolidating to 1 person or a team is undercommunicated. This is where the opportunity is, because there is a value to that. Because I think of our empathy and our soft skills, I think a key part of what we do is we align other teams. We know what's happening in finance. We know what's happening with creative for a product launch. We know what's going on with sales, hopefully. Ideally, we know all of this. So we bring all of that together, and we need to highlight the benefit to a company for being able to do that. Bless you. So how do we change this? These are my own thoughts as I thought about what could we do? Nothing scientifically tested, just I've really been thinking about this a lot because I've been surprised that this is still happening. 1, educate. 2, become a product marketer. I know there's a few here who are not. 3, empower your existing team more. So educate. So 2 things I want to highlight here. 1, we do positioning for everything at an organization. I think we need to start positioning our own roles within an organization and actually talk about what we do and why we do it and for who. So I have someone that I'm actually coaching right now who's in product marketing, and one of the things that she's actually working on is a deck to talk about the product marketing team, their mission, the vision, and she's going to share this across other teams. If you're in product marketing and you think that would be a benefit for you, do it. I know we did that. I didn't put it together. My supervisor did. He got us all together. We talked every quarter about our mission, our vision, what we're doing, and we shared that every quarter across other teams. So it gave us a lot of visibility. Not only that, not only the positioning, but just present more. I know that sounds very obvious. When I started working with a startup that I'm working with now, the first week of it, they didn't know what product marketing was. So I just did a session, what is product marketing? And just talked about it. And ever since then, more people have come to me with ideas of what to do. And quite honestly, they didn't know. I was brought onto the team to help them with certain things. The founder and the chief product officer knew what product marketing was. Everyone else, I think, was like, who is this person that's coming to help us with certain tasks? So I ran that session proactively. So think about if there's anything proactive you can do to raise the voice of your product marketing team. So become a product marketer. So based on what I said earlier, you're probably, if you're not in product marketing, or if you know someone not in product marketing and they think would be a good fit, I bet you they're doing 1 or 2 or more of the tasks already that product marketers do. So think about that in your organization. If you have the ability to grow your team, we're just going to grow visibility for our role even more, because most likely you are doing it already. So become a product marketer. If you're not, try to bring others into your team as a result. And I just think that's going to help us elevate who we are and what we do. And then empower your existing team more. So this was a big one at my last company. I was lucky enough to have an amazing supervisor who had a very strategic seat and had, he was very close with our general manager. And because of this, we were invited to a lot of high-level meetings. I got lucky with that, I think. I don't think that's always the case. So if you lead a product marketing team, really try to do that, because every time that happened, I didn't hear anyone regret that they had a product marketer in there. We talk a lot about research and customer first and the win-loss we talked about today and product launches. The earlier a product marketer can get in on that conversation, not only do they bring more insight really early, but they see it through. So I joke and I say, if you're going to have a product marketer in there early, you're going to want them through the rest of that project, because that's just the value that we bring. So if you have a leadership position now, even if you're not in product marketing, invite a product marketer. Just try to do something different and bring them in really early into the conversation. And if you're your own leader of a product marketing team, of course, do the same. Okay. So I'm going to end with a couple even more thought-provoking things that could be great for discussion. What's next for product marketing? So I don't necessarily mean the role shifting and things like that. That could be possible. Ideally, what I'd like to see next is that more people know what product marketing is. But besides that, that's what I'd love to see. I'm going to propose a new idea. So the ambiguity of our role could actually save us. So, definitely a little thought-provoking. I won't take credit for this. I quoted the person that will take credit for this. So, Devin, he's a senior product marketing manager at Amazon. He was one of the comments on my LinkedIn thread. I talked to him about it a little bit, and I said, what do you mean by this? He said, automation will continue to chip away at the availability of the very clear-cut task-based rules. Personally, the lack of rigidity and freedom to creatively solve problems is exactly what I find compelling about the role. That's really interesting. I read that and I was like, okay. Now, do I take back everything I just said? Absolutely not. I still think we need to do all of that. My point with this is, maybe we should also think about that the beauty of our role is actually all the things I just described, and how it does have, these soft skills and components that are actually hard to define and probably hard for something automated to take over one day, maybe parts of it. And I know that brings up a whole other topic, which we can talk about. I'm not an automation AI expert, happy to talk about it. I'm curious what you guys think about this, but overall, let's embrace the ambiguity and not fight against it in our role. Let's elevate where we can, but ability to handle ambiguity is actually, I think, what makes us really successful, and that's a very, very specific personality type that can do that. Thank you.
Questions?
Anybody have a question? Or thoughts? If you guys heard something and you felt that in your organization, I'd love to hear it. Or anything resonated.
Do you have any tips as to what we can do to, I mean, you know, even if we have more of a say, just even get a bigger seat at the table, any tips to be successful on your end?
Yep. So the question was, any tips to get a bigger seat at the table, even if we do have one, how can we do that more? Yeah, so the first thing that I am thinking of is if you already feel you have a pretty strategic role, but there's still a little bit of a challenge, is something that I did is try to befriend someone else that does have a seat at the table and not just take them out to coffee, actually show them the value of what you're working on, find a partner. That might be the chief revenue officer that leads up sales. You're a big counterpart to sales. So set up a one-on-one, build that relationship, build it again, and then most of the time I saw they started to include us in the conversations when we never were actually. And that's not easy, that takes a little bit of time, but I think a lot of that is building relationships, and that takes, you know, a little bit of effort. So a champion, it's kind of a cliche word, but something like a champion or a partner that can help you get there, we found to help.
Follow up on that, what about on the tech leadership side? Any tips with dealing with product, tech people? Leadership.
Yeah, I mean, that's we could do a whole session probably. I'm gonna say something very similar. I think this is again, ambiguity, but some of the soft skills. For anyone to really work well with you, I really have a core belief. They need to believe in what you're doing, and they need to see how it benefits them. Ultimately, we only care about that. It's the same for us in product marketers. I mean, if we're meeting with product and our meetings are useless, we're not gonna help them. So why would they help us? So I think it's really trying to show what you're doing specifically and presenting it back to them and take baby steps. You know, maybe they're not ready for a quarterly research project, but say, hey, I spoke to 10 customers. Can I come show you that? They're probably not going to say no. They'll probably say, okay, cool, wow, they showed me something. I mean, it's a little bit of that game because you have to prove what you're working on, but I would say the same thing. So again, it comes back to the relationship you have with them. Yeah.
I can just shout.
Well, then people in the back.
All right. Sure. As organizations grow, how do you see the product marketing role sort of shift within the organization while you're scaling?
Yeah, so grow, I don't know what size you're thinking through, but because now I'm interacting with startups. So this is like 10 to 15 person teams that I'm speaking to. But I come from, 500 to 1,000. I was at Constant Contact first, and they were 500 when I started and left at 1,000 4 years later. The first thing that comes to mind on that is I've heard, product marketing kind of, I don't know if it means we have one team, but I wonder, and it's a question I have as well, does it benefit us to sit with different teams? I mean, both literally sit with them, but also maybe be on their team. So perhaps there is you have one umbrella of product marketing, just because I think as a team, as the company grows, it gets even harder and harder to be aligned and to manage everything. So whether it's business units or whether it's just a couple of people that are working specifically on this product, they physically and are really involved with those teams as the company grows. That could be, I'll take another angle to that question, is now that I'm speaking to startups, they usually don't need a full-time product marketer, and I'm talking about very early stage, like seed to Series A. But I'm gonna mention this tomorrow morning, so I'm taking away some of that. But there are some key product marketing tasks they need, but usually not a full-time person. So very early, I don't think you need a full-time person. You need to really get down your positioning and messaging, get some sales tools going, make sure you're aligned on marketing channels around your messaging and position, but that's really all they need to get started.
Any other questions for Shirin?
Yeah?
It also feels a little bit like getting more into the role that product marketing is actually like
indeed a little bit more like consulting, but the difference between like what used to be like popular in the consulting world like 10 years ago. So now here the PMM role is like more like an internal consultant. Do you also feel this type of?
Oh yeah. I don't know if this is exactly what you mean by consulting, but I don't like to minimize the role by saying this. So I've always tried not to say it, especially with my teams, but I feel we are a middle intersection point. Like we take a lot of information and we share a lot of information. And that's the visual in my brain. It's like we're here, this is product, engineers, here, us, sales, and go to market. And we're like relaying and assessing and consolidating. So in that sense, I could see why it's a consultative role. I left this out of soft skills. I think super critical for being a great product marketer, being very organized, and great project management skills probably fits that kind of consulting approach a bit. Because you are looked to from so many angles and you're juggling so many things. So in that sense, yes.
And in what sense do you think it's different?
Well, I'm a consultant now, and I would say I'm less embedded in the companies that I'm working with because I'm not officially part of their teams. So maybe this is a stigma in my brain with consulting. I do think product marketers are so integrated that I don't want to say that they're like a consultant. Like I wouldn't use that word internally. I would say partner more than consultative. So that's how I think it's different.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other last questions for Shirin? Oh, Jesus. We're all tripping. Okay, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Looking forward to hearing from you more tomorrow.